Common ground. Thank you, Matt, first of all, for being ready to just step up in the middle of my family's need and to preach and to teach on Elijah and Christ and the Psalm of David as well. But I did want to bring to you this whole idea of the diagram. And as we kind of look at some of the application and some of the contemplation, I wanted to look at getting at the core of Sabbath rest. And as we think about this whole idea of faith and fatigue and how we draw this life in Christ out inside a culture, much like the Israelites had to deal with inside a culture where we are told to produce. You are told to make bricks without straw. I was talking to an educator this week whose state was mandating that even though students' performances are going down, that they have got to show the results in standardized testing, that even though everything just looks like it's tanking, they are being forced to show and give the results, making bricks without straw. And whether you're in education or whether you're in the medical field or whether you are in the ministry, the human and American idea is that we have to perform. And yet, God gives the Israelites the best gift when he says, "Come away with me into the wilderness, and 6 days shall you labor, but on the seventh day you need to rest." And so inside the world that we live in, we have got to get to the core of Sabbath living. And if we're going to get to the core of Sabbath living, there are some layers that we got to go through. And I want to go through 3 layers to get to the core and to kind of explain that. And there is a lot of content here. And I know that there's probably more than I can give you from a labor and delivery hospital bed. But I want to work through 3 layers, and then I want to talk about the core briefly, and then pass that information on to Melissa and Hans and Matt and our elder team, and they can pass it on to you as you explore some of this. But the first layer of getting at the core, if you want to look on the screen and see that, is there has to be a desire. There were those that were working for Pharaoh. There were those that even inside the tax system of Rome that wanted to work and benefit from the system. If you are benefiting from the system in some sense, then the desire has to be stronger than the benefit that you're making. And so we have to understand that there is a desire to rest in the work of Christ, in the finished work of Christ. And so we ask the questions: what is my motivation for going at the pace I am currently going? What is my motivation for going at the pace that I'm currently going? Then, who has suffered for the rate in which I manage my schedule? Who has suffered? What does Christ's ascension and his rule and reign offer me that I'm not withdrawing from because I'm benefiting off of another system and another ethic and maybe even another economy than the economy of Christ? Another question to ask is that Jesus would come to a man and he would say, "What is it that you want me to do for you?" To really get to the core of what it is that you desire. Jesus, what is it that I truly want you to do for me surrounding the fatigue and true ultimate rest in you? And then finally, in getting at that layer of, do I have the desire to rest in Christ's finished work, is how can you use your skill set and gifts for a more productive rest? Do you see what we did there? We flipped it around a little bit, not just to be more productive, to not make bricks with straw, but how can I be more productive in my play, in my rest, in my worship? And then the third layer, as we move down to the core, if the surface layer is a desire, then the third layer is to have a tool set, tools for Christ-inspired work. And all of us know when we do not have the right tool for whatever the job is, we can know how frustrating that be. And some of you, bought a Peloton over the last several years through COVID, and that Peloton is sitting over in the corner, and you have the tools to get your body healthy, but it's just sitting in the corner. And the same is true for this. And so we want to talk about the tools. And the first one is this, is that we would be committed with the tool of feeding hungry bellies and hungry souls. If that is not the level of work that we are about, then we cannot expect to rest if our work is not ethical, if it is not communal in nature, if we are exerting all of our energy in a work that does not have purpose, does not have hope, does not have light, then we will continue to feel that ongoing drain on our bodies because God has made you for purposeful, communal, life-giving work, not work of violence, not work of greed, not work of systems that suck and drain, and others rise to the top as others suffer. And so feeding hungry bellies and souls, healing broken minds, systems, spirits, and bodies, building good neighborhoods and work spaces, teaching others all that Jesus has said and done and will do, restoring and mending that which is broken in the world by sin, and serving alongside your brothers and sisters in a kingdom-specific ministry. These are the tools for Christ-inspired work. As we move, again, looking at that Peloton over in the corner, even though you might have the tools and the skill set to do it, how do we build the muscle? How do we build the muscle day in and day out to rest? And that leads us to the next core and layer, and that is habits of rest. What are the habits of rest? Not just the tools, but first of all, I want you to sleep like Jesus. We hear in that story that the storm is all around and the disciples are freaking out, and yet Christ is resting in the boat. And so what does it mean for us to follow the rabbi and to surrender, knowing that there's one person throughout all creation who is infinite, and we are not that person. We need our batteries charged. You were made for it. And so I want you to sleep like Jesus. I want you to worship like the early church. As you dive into this layer, follow along with the stories of 1st and 2nd Corinthians and the book of Acts and the stories of the first church and how they refused to stop meeting together, how they broke bread, how they prayed and listened to the apostles' teachings. And then I want you to disciple as your main vocation, like Paul. And you need work that is meaningful to contribute to the flourishing of society, not to its demise or destruction, violence or greed or harm. And discipleship is part of that main vocation. Whatever your career is different. But identify true rest when discipleship is your main vocation. And then not only disciple as Paul did, but I want you to eat like Daniel. And what does it say? Most of the time we would eat vegetables, and sometimes we would eat meat, is what Daniel and other people would say. But we have this idea that we can just eat fast food all the time, and that our bodies are going to be able to respond in the way that we need to, with rest and work and family and life and feeling good about ourselves, when we're not eating real food. And this goes back to our message on fatigue, on food. And so put the food in your body that is going to give you the true fuel that you need for life and ministry and love. And then pray like Jesus is a habit. As you explore this layer, what are the habits of Jesus's prayer life that you can implement into your own? And then church, at the very core, once we move past the desire and the skill of Sabbath living, and then once we move to the habits of Sabbath living, what is Sabbath living itself? What does that even look like? And there's a few examples, and I want to talk about Sabbath living. First of all, Sabbath living at home. I want you, as an example, on a Friday night to light a candle at 6 p.m. as the sun goes down. And in the spring, still light a candle at 6 p.m. And for the next 24 hours, resist from work that is paid and work that is unpaid. I want you to prepare and consume a meal in community, friends or family. As you bathe or as you do the dishes, consider your own baptism. I want you to consider and explore and jot down your own ideas of what Sabbath living would look like to turn your home into that sanctuary. Welcome childlike play and joy. And I want you to exude in that kind of laughter. Let the default answer of that Sabbath day be, yes, of course we can do this. Christ has ascended. Christ has resurrected. Yes, let's play. Yes, let's go there. Yes, the answer is yes on a day like today. And then second, Sabbath living has to do with the economics of abundance, not scarcity. And examples of this is that I would want you to resist the impulse to shop, particularly in a way that would increase your carbon footprint, and from things purchased or your carbon footprint from things purchased. Again, I think of like Amazon and just hitting that button, and then boom, a product from China gets sent on a ship, and then that gets sent on a boat, and then that gets sent on a cargo truck, and then that gets sent on a delivery truck. Just resist to shop on a day like that. I also want you to consider the verse of just, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He prepares a banquet for me. List 3 things that during the week you felt a lack and were tempted toward greed or hoarding. And again, the idea for this is the economics of abundance rather than scarcity, that Sabbath living is truly the ability to say that I'm going to grab manna for one day, but the Lord will provide for the next. And there's a lot of other ideas that you could explore on this whole idea of economics. Also consider education. I want you to consider and resist the commodity of our secular education as the first rung in a ladder to success. Prepare a higher and more worthy academic that includes the fear of the Lord as the source of knowledge. Our Sabbath education is a school of conversion and celebration in which our collective fears and anxieties and arrogance are transformed into humility, awe, and delight. And I also want you to consider creation care and theological environmentalism as a Sabbath way of living. What does it mean for you to conserve water, conserve electricity, and be in creation with your feet firmly grounded into the soil from which you have come from and to which we are all going to die and return? Place your feet on the ground, plant, prune, till, cultivate, and wait. Plan trips that include riding your bike, getting in the river, napping outside, and other forms of unplugging so that you can be filled. Eat in a way that is kind of farm to table on the Sabbath. Consider your creation mandate today to steward the earth. Remember that to have dominion does not mean to dominate. And then finally, church, as a Sabbath form of living, in the core of that, once we have had the desire and moved towards the idea of cultivating that desire into the tools and sharpening our tool belt, we have established habits that move in and day out. Then finally, on this Sabbath day, we worship. And it may not be Sunday, but we as the people of God do not worship just on Sunday. We understand that we are resisting any kind of hurry. As Eugene Peterson would say, that hurry is a kind of violence to time. There's a lot more that we can explore in the idea of worship as you prepare your heart for Christ to come and feast among you. But I've gone way over my time. I'm so thankful for you. I'm so thankful for this time that you've given to my family. Explore this idea of the core and the sphere and the layers that are going on to move into the idea of Sabbath living. Getting to the core of Sabbath living is really where it is at for us, for you. And that is my hope. No matter how tired, that you would move away from the bricks being made with straw and that you would allow Christ to fulfill you. I love you, church. I'll see you soon.
Thank you for tuning into Common Ground Media. Please subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you guys soon.